Let me hit you with a truth most people don't want to face. It's not your bank account that's broke. It's your mindset. You keep chasing hacks. You keep reading books. You keep watching videos. But deep down, you're still operating from the same daily habits, beliefs, and emotional patterns that keep you stuck. You say you want to build wealth, but your thoughts are programmed for survival, not abundance. And if you don't rewire that internal code, you'll hustle your whole life and still end up broke. But here's the good news. You can change it, starting today, because there are 10 core mindset shifts and daily habit systems that every self-made millionaire masters, not once, every single day. So, if you're ready to build the mindset of a high performer, if you're done playing small, these 10 principles will be your roadmap. 1. You focus on what you lack instead of what you leverage. The majority of people live in a mindset loop that constantly highlights what they don't have. I don't have enough money. I don't have time. I don't have the right connections. This mental focus on scarcity becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because the brain is wired to seek confirmation of what it believes. So if you believe you're lacking, your actions, whether you realize it or not, will mirror that belief. You'll hesitate. You'll procrastinate. You'll make decisions from fear, not from faith or clarity. But those who break out of financial stagnation don't think this way. They operate from a mindset of leverage. Instead of asking, "What am I missing?" they ask, "What do I already have that I'm not using fully?" It could be a skill, a network connection, a piece of knowledge, or even just time and energy. The difference between those who stay stuck and those who create success isn't always more resources. It's the ability to recognize and activate the resources they already have. Think about it. Every person who has built something extraordinary didn't start with unlimited money, perfect timing, or flawless conditions. What they did have was an inner ability to look around, take inventory, and start moving with whatever tools were available. This is leverage thinking. It's looking at a 100 budget and asking how to multiply it, rather than complaining it's not enough. It's taking one helpful conversation and turning it into a collaboration. It's squeezing every drop of value from every opportunity, rather than standing still waiting for the perfect one. When you shift from lack to leverage, your brain begins to work differently. You go from paralysis to action. You start seeing angles others miss. Instead of waiting for the right time, you make the most of this time. You stop saying, "If only I had," and start saying, "Here's what I can do with what I've got." It's not about ignoring the gaps. It's about not being owned by them. Leverage is proactive. Lack is passive. Leverage leads to momentum because it's rooted in responsibility and ownership. People who operate from leverage stop seeing themselves as victims of circumstance and start becoming architects of change. This rewiring of perspective doesn't require years of training. It starts with the daily habit of reframing your internal dialogue. Every challenge becomes a question. How can I use what I do have right now to move forward just one step? 2. You let emotion dictate your execution. One of the most subtle but damaging patterns that keeps people stuck is the belief that they need to feel like if in order to act. This emotional dependency becomes a silent killer of consistency. When you let your feelings govern your execution, you're building your life on unstable ground. Because feelings fluctuate. One day you're fired up and productive. The next, you're exhausted and doubtful. If your behavior rides the wave of emotion, your results will be just as inconsistent. People who stay broke often believe motivation is a prerequisite for action. But successful people reverse that model. They don't wait to be motivated. They move, and the motivation catches up. High performers understand that feelings are data, not directives. You can feel tired and still send the email. You can feel unmotivated and still go to the gym. You can feel doubt and still follow through. The emotion is real, but it doesn't have to lead. This is where systems come in. Systems remove emotion from the equation. A routine is your anchor when your mood tries to sabotage your mission. For example, if your morning routine is to wake up, journal, read, and execute on your top priority before the day begins, it doesn't matter how you feel. The system carries you through. The decision was already made. Now it's about discipline, not debate. Those who build real momentum have this advantage. They don't negotiate with themselves every day. The time for negotiation ended when the routine was created. They've trained themselves to trust the process more than the emotion. They know the brain is an expert in offering excuses, especially when the task is uncomfortable, uncertain, or new. But they've also realized that growth only happens after you push past that first emotional resistance. Think of elite athletes. They don't skip training because they're tired or anxious. They show up and execute, even when their feelings are screaming otherwise. Why? Because they understand that discipline outperforms motivation every single time. And that mindset transfers to business, relationships, finances, and creativity. When you take action in spite of emotion, you create internal proof that you're capable. And confidence grows. Your habits become identity-based. You no longer rely on external hype to perform. You rely on self-respect, structure, and commitment to the process. 3. You treat time like it's infinite. One of the most dangerous assumptions people make is that they have plenty of time. This illusion creates a false sense of security, like you can always start tomorrow, fix things next week, or get serious someday. But the truth is, time is the most non-renewable resource you have. Once it's gone, it's gone. And the way you treat your time reflects how much you truly value your goals, your growth, and your future. People who stay broke often live in a reactive state. They let their calendars get hijacked by distractions, interruptions, and low-value activities that drain their energy but give them nothing in return. They scroll endlessly, say yes to everything, procrastinate on the important, and delay the difficult. And while they feel busy, they're not actually making progress. They're mistaking movement for momentum. Wealth-minded individuals operate differently. They understand that their calendar is a mirror of their priorities. Every hour has intention. They block time for deep work, strategic thinking, exercise, rest, learning, and execution. They don't just make to-do lists. They assign time to each task. They don't try to find time. They create it by eliminating what's unnecessary. This level of clarity gives them leverage. It keeps their energy focused and their days aligned with their bigger vision. There's also a psychological shift that happens when you start treating time like it's precious. You stop tolerating things that waste it. You stop entertaining distractions. You stop spending time with people who drain you. You become allergic to shallow conversations, unplanned days, and reactive living. You realize that how you use your time is a direct statement about what kind of life you're building. If you want to shift from broke to abundant, start measuring your time the way you'd measure money in a business. Where is it going? What's the ROI? Is this activity producing growth, income clarity, or health? If not, why are you giving it your hours? Imagine if you treated every 15-minute block like it was 100. Would you keep spending it the same way? This mindset also impacts the urgency with which you move. Broke thinking waits. Wealth thinking moves. Because when you understand that your time is running out, not in a fearful way, but in a focused one, you start acting with purpose. You become intentional about your morning routine, protective of your evenings, and strategic with your commitments. 4. You don't schedule growth. You just wish for it. Most people say they want to grow. They want more income, more freedom, more confidence, more clarity. But when you look at their daily schedule, there's no visible evidence of that desire. Their time is filled with tasks, distractions, and reaction, but no space carved out for deliberate growth. And that's the real gap. It's not a lack of ambition. It's a lack of structure. Wishing for growth without scheduling it is like wanting a six-pack without planning your workouts or meals. It feels good to talk about it, but it leads nowhere. Real transformation doesn't come from inspiration. It comes from integration. And integration happens when growth is blocked into your calendar like an unmissable meeting. The most successful people don't just stumble into personal development. They engineer it. They have daily, weekly, and monthly time blocks dedicated to learning, improving, and expanding. They have a strategy for growth the same way a business has a marketing or financial strategy. Whether it's reading a chapter every morning, watching a course before bed, attending mastermind calls, or reviewing progress every Sunday, they plan their progress. This also applies to skill development. You can't just say, I want to be better at communication, or I need to learn how to lead. That's vague. The growth-minded person schedules practice time. They rehearse their talks. They take feedback seriously. They refine. They track. The same goes for financial literacy, negotiation, marketing, or fitness. Whatever area you want to grow in needs a place on your calendar, not just on your wish list. Scheduling growth also brings a mindset shift from passive to proactive. You stop waiting for the right book to show up, the right video to go viral, or the right person to give you a break. Instead, you become the architect of your development. You choose your inputs, curate your environment, and structure your time with intention. And here's what happens when you do this consistently: growth compounds. Just 30 minutes of focused learning a day becomes over 180 hours a year. That's the equivalent of multiple certifications, books, or new skills, all from a simple habit of scheduled learning. While most people are consuming random content, hoping for a breakthrough, you're strategically building your next level. You're creating momentum not by chance, but by design. 5. You avoid the boring stuff that builds the empire. There's a dangerous lie that keeps people stuck, the idea that success should be exciting all the time. That building wealth is supposed to feel inspiring, creative, and motivating every single day. So when the work feels repetitive, tedious, or mentally dull, most people check out. They procrastinate. They chase shiny new strategies or distractions that feel productive, but don't actually move the needle. But here's the truth: the empire is built in the boring. Every person who has built something substantial, whether it's a business, a body, or a brand, has had to fall in love with consistency over hype. They've had to master the unglamorous tasks that no one posts about. Tracking numbers, sending follow-ups, fixing systems, writing that 100th email sequence, reviewing the budget, honoring the same morning routine for the 200th day in a row. These are not sexy tasks, but they are the foundation of long-term success. Avoiding the boring is actually a form of self-sabotage. When you skip the basics in search of something more entertaining, you're ignoring the very systems that generate results. You're relying on willpower and emotion instead of structure and momentum. The most successful people in the world aren't always the most talented. They're the ones who got insanely good at showing up and executing the boring stuff with excellence. Think of an athlete running the same drills every day. Think of a chef perfecting the same recipe hundreds of times. Think of a content creator sticking to their posting schedule even when no one's watching. The repetition is what creates refinement. The discipline is what creates durability. The boring is where greatness is born. And the irony is, once you accept the boring, it eventually becomes freeing. You no longer waste energy negotiating with yourself about whether you feel like doing it. The task is on your list, and it gets done. That builds confidence. That builds rhythm. And over time, those small daily actions stack into massive results that look effortless from the outside, but were built in silence through relentless consistency. If you're stuck, it might not be because you're doing the wrong things. It might be because you keep skipping the right things that don't give you an instant hit of dopamine. You need to shift your perspective and realize that boredom isn't a sign to stop. It's often a signal that you're finally doing the real work. 6. You seek comfort more than progress. At the core of every breakthrough is discomfort. Growth, by definition, stretches you. It demands more than what you're currently doing. But the reason most people stay stuck, financially, mentally, emotionally, is because they have an unconscious addiction to comfort. They want the results of high achievement, but they don't want the discomfort that comes with earning them. They want to grow, but not if it means changing routines, facing fears, or risking failure. The brain is hardwired for comfort and safety. It's designed to keep you alive, not to make you rich, fulfilled, or successful. That's why it constantly whispers, "Take it easy, do it later," or "You've done enough for today." When you're led by that voice, you seek what's familiar, what's easy, what's low risk, and you end up repeating the same week over and over again, calling it a life. Progress-minded individuals do something different. They condition themselves to seek discomfort. Not recklessly, but intentionally. They put themselves in situations that stretch them. They speak up when it's awkward. They say no when it's easier to say yes. They take on challenges that force them to level up. And over time, they become more comfortable being uncomfortable. It's not that they never feel fear or resistance. It's that they don't let those feelings drive the bus. They see discomfort as a compass, not a warning sign. If something scares them but aligns with their goals, they lean in. Because they've learned that discomfort is where the growth lives. It's the space between where you are and where you want to be. If you avoid it, you stay stuck. If you move through it, you evolve. Comfort also shows up in habits. Waking up late feels good in the moment. Skipping the hard conversation avoids tension. Delaying that difficult task feels easier. But every time you choose comfort over progress, you pay for it later. With regret, with stagnation, or with missed opportunity. Every major transformation starts with a decision to break the pattern of comfort and step into the unknown. To create lasting success, you must reframe your relationship with discomfort. You must see it as a training ground. Just like muscles grow by being broken down and rebuilt, your mindset strengthens when you lean into resistance. Those micro decisions, to push forward when it's easier to pull back, build resilience, grit, and clarity. 7. You don't have an energy strategy. Most people obsess over time management, productivity hacks, and goal setting, but they completely ignore the one resource that fuels it all: energy. Without energy, even the best plans collapse. You can have the perfect schedule, the sharpest strategy, and the clearest vision. But if you're constantly tired, mentally foggy, or emotionally drained, none of it will matter. Lack of energy quietly sabotages execution, consistency, and focus. And here's the problem. People assume energy is something you either have or don't have. They treat it like luck or genetics instead of what it really is, a daily discipline. Successful people treat their energy like a system. They understand that how they sleep, eat, move, think, and recover all determine how much output they can produce on any given day. They don't leave it to chance, they optimize it. If you want to build anything meaningful, you need an energy strategy. That starts with mastering the fundamentals: quality sleep, hydration, real food, and consistent movement. These aren't just health tips, they are performance tools. When your body is functioning at a high level, your brain makes better decisions, your motivation lasts longer, and your ability to push through resistance increases. Fatigue doesn't just make you tired, it makes you unfocused, emotional, impulsive, and weak in execution. Mental energy is just as important. If your mind is cluttered with distractions, open loops, and constant stimulation, you're draining focus before you even begin. That's why successful people build in mental recovery, journaling to clear thoughts, planning to eliminate chaos, and taking intentional breaks to reset their brain. They also protect their environment. Negative people, toxic conversations, and drama are all silent energy thieves. Guarding your attention is a form of energy management. Emotional energy can't be ignored either. If you're walking around bitter, resentful, or overwhelmed, you're burning internal fuel all day long. Emotional regulation, learning to pause, reframe, and ground yourself, is a critical skill for high performance. You have to be able to shift states, recover from setbacks, and stay emotionally centered when stress shows up. Building a high energy lifestyle doesn't require perfection. It requires awareness and intentionality. Start noticing what drains you and what energizes you. Track how you feel after certain meals, conversations, routines, or environments. When you learn how to generate energy instead of waiting for it, you create the momentum needed to show up strong, think clearly, and follow through on what actually matters. 8. You try to do everything alone. There's a silent badge of honor many people wear. The belief that doing everything on their own somehow proves their strength, worth, or independence. But in reality, this mindset becomes a hidden bottleneck that slows growth, stunts progress, and leads to burnout. Trying to carry every responsibility, solve every problem, and build every solution alone is not heroic, it's inefficient. The truth is, self-made is a myth. Every successful person has leaned on mentorship, community, and collaboration to get where they are. When you insist on doing everything yourself, you limit your speed and your perspective. You only know what you know, and that creates a ceiling. But when you open yourself up to people who've walked the path before you, or who bring different strengths to the table, you accelerate your learning and multiply your impact. You gain shortcuts, strategies, and clarity that would have taken you years to figure out solo. People stuck in a broke mindset often believe that asking for help is weakness, or that they have to prove themselves before they deserve support. But those operating with a wealth mindset understand that seeking help is a form of strength. It's a recognition of where your time is best spent and where someone else's expertise can elevate your results. Whether it's hiring someone to take tasks off your plate, investing in coaching, joining mastermind groups, or simply asking the right questions, leveraging other people is a power move. Collaboration also protects your energy. When you do everything alone, you become the bottleneck in every process. Decision fatigue sets in, motivation dips, momentum slows. But when you're surrounded by people who challenge you, support you, and hold you accountable, your capacity expands. You move faster because you're no longer solving every problem from scratch. Even more importantly, being around high performers shifts your standards. You start thinking bigger, you stop settling, you absorb new beliefs, new habits, and new ways of operating. You learn through proximity. One conversation with the right person can unlock more clarity than months of isolated struggle. One relationship can open doors that hard work alone never could. Success is never built in a vacuum. It's built through aligned relationships, honest feedback, shared wisdom, and intentional delegation. You were never meant to build the vision alone, not because you're not capable, but because it's not the most effective way to rise. 9. You react all day instead of leading your day. If you wake up and immediately dive into your notifications, emails, or social feeds, you're starting your day in response mode. That single choice, checking your phone before you check in with yourself, sets the tone for the entire day. You become a reactor, not a leader. And when you live in reaction, your time, your focus, and your energy are hijacked by other people's agendas. This is one of the most common yet overlooked patterns that keeps people stuck. They let the world decide what's urgent instead of deciding what's important. From the moment they wake up, they're pulled in every direction: text messages, client calls, family obligations, endless to-do lists. They confuse being busy with being productive. But motion without intention is just chaos wearing a disguise. People who consistently make progress in their lives operate from a completely different strategy. They lead their day before the day begins. They don't wait until things get chaotic to create structure. They build structure that prevents chaos in the first place. This starts with a clear morning routine designed to anchor their mind, set their priorities, and charge their energy. Whether it's meditation, journaling, goal review, or focused planning, the key is simple: start with yourself before the world gets a piece of you. Leading your day means taking control of your schedule. It means identifying your top 103 outcomes before the noise begins. It means saying no more than you say yes, so that your calendar reflects what actually matters. It also means creating buffer zones in your day, periods of time where you can think, strategize, and reflect, instead of rushing from one obligation to another without ever stopping to breathe. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is to schedule intention into your day, instead of just reacting to what shows up. When you lead your day, you're not just checking boxes. You're building momentum towards something bigger. You're working on your life, not just in it. You're driving the car instead of being dragged behind it. This mindset shift also helps regulate your emotions. When you're constantly reacting, you become more stressed, more scattered, and more easily triggered. But when you're grounded in your own rhythm, you respond with clarity and calm. You stop being at the mercy of everything urgent and start creating space for what's truly essential. 10. You consume more than you create. We live in a world where consuming content has become a full-time job. Scroll, swipe, binge, repeat. Podcasts, YouTube videos, inspirational posts, reels, articles. There's a constant flood of information available at your fingertips. And while learning is valuable, most people cross a dangerous line without realizing it. They consume endlessly, but rarely create. They feel productive because they're busy absorbing, but they never actually apply or build anything. This passive consumption leads to paralysis. You gather more ideas, more strategies, more options, but no action. Your mind becomes cluttered with noise, and your execution muscles weaken. You start second-guessing yourself. You wait for the perfect formula before taking the first step. You become a spectator in your own life, watching others build, share, grow, and lead while you sit on the sidelines with more information than ever, but fewer results to show for it. The shift begins when you flip the ratio, create more than you consume. That doesn't mean you stop learning. It means you start using what you've learned. Creating doesn't have to mean launching a business or writing a book overnight. It can be as simple as sharing your thoughts, documenting your journey, building a product, writing a post, recording a video, solving a problem, or starting a new project. Creation is an act of contribution, and contribution builds confidence, identity, and momentum. Creators live differently. They process information with intention. When they read a book, they're thinking about how to apply the concepts. When they watch a video, they extract the piece that aligns with their mission. They don't chase novelty, they go deep on what matters and then act on it. Creation forces clarity because it demands decision. It moves you from theory to practice, from hesitation to ownership. There's also a hidden confidence that comes from producing consistently. Every time you create something, whether it's a piece of content, a habit, a plan, or a product, you reinforce a core belief: I can build things that matter. That belief compounds over time. While consumers are constantly looking for their next dose of inspiration, creators are already producing results. They're testing, refining, and learning through action, not just observation. In a world full of passive followers, creation becomes your edge. It turns knowledge into power. It transforms potential into progress. It separates those who dream from those who do.